Assalamu alaikum. Avez-vous entendu parler d'Yvonne Ridley? Yvonne Ridley, c'est une journaliste, une auteure et une femme politique britannique, qui est née le 23 avril 1958. Elle est une ancienne présidente du Conseil national du Parti du Respect et elle a fait la une des journaux mondiaux. Pourquoi? Parce qu'elle a été capturée par les talibans en 2001 après les événements du 11 septembre. Avant de voir un petit peu son histoire, reprenons depuis le début. Ridley est née dans la ville minière d'ouvrières de Stanley, dans le comté de Durham. Elle est la plus jeune de 3 filles et elle a été élevée dans l'église catholique d'Angleterre. Elle a fréquenté le London College et elle a commencé sa carrière aux nouvelles locales de Stanley, donc en tant que journaliste. De là, elle a déménagé à Newcastle et a travaillé pour The Sunday Sun. Elle a ensuite été employée par d'autres journaux, Independent on Sunday, le Daily Mirror, les Nouvelles du Monde. Elle a vraiment commencé sa carrière en tant que journaliste et était journaliste en chef, lorsque le Sunday Express l'a envoyée en Afghanistan après le 11 septembre. Et c'est là où l'histoire commence en fait, son histoire.
I want to share the story with you so you can enjoy it, maybe understand a little bit more about Islam. According to Bush and Blair, the Taliban was the most evil, brutal regime in the world. They subjugated and oppressed women. They killed them randomly. The tales that were coming out were terrible. I distinctly remember Tony Blair saying, "These people are so evil, they won't even let their children fly kites." And so I decided, well, I need to find this out for myself. And I went to the Taliban embassy in Islamabad, and I tried 3 times to get a visa, and 3 times I was rejected. And so in the end, with my guides, I had got 2 or 3 guides who were helping me. I decided to sneak into Afghanistan. The idea was planted in my head by the BBC's chief correspondent, John Simpson, who had put on a burqa and put his toe into Afghanistan and said, "Hey,
Ridley a
look,
été
I've
capturée
become
par les talibans en Afghanistan le 28 septembre 2001 et détenue pendant 11 jours alors qu'elle travaillait pour le Sunday Express. Comment elle s'est fait capturer? En fait, comme elle s'est vue refuser un visa d'entrée, elle a décidé d'entrer le 26 septembre sous couverture et de passer comme ça 2 jours en Afghanistan, c'est-à-dire incognito. Mais c'est à son retour, voyageant avec ses guides, qu'elle a été découverte lorsque l'âne sur lequel elle se trouvait s'est enfui. Imaginez le destin. L'âne sur lequel elle se trouvait s'est enfui et son appareil photo a été aperçu par un soldat taliban.
And he said, "Can you ride a donkey?" And I thought, can I ride a donkey? You know, I can ride a horse, I can jump with a horse. Look at these donkeys, they're smaller. And I got on its back. Now, I don't know if it sensed that it had an infidel on its back or what, but it just bolted. And it tore through this area. And my feet were waving, my arms were waving, and as I moved forward to try and get hold of the reins just to stop it, the one piece of equipment that I had taken with me, a camera, slipped out of the folds of my burqa right into the passing view of a Taliban soldier. Now, I don't know whether the donkey stopped and threw me off, whether he stopped the donkey and pulled me off. What happened, I really can't remember. All I remember is hitting the ground at a great rate of speed and then picking myself up. And as I drew myself up, I looked straight into the face of this Taliban. And I thought, oh, they're not going to kill me. Well, not just yet. Anyway, they're trying to find out if I'm carrying any weapons. And isn't it strange that he's gone off to get a woman? You know, why wouldn't he just search me himself? obviously showing more courtesy than British police. And so all the fear that I had felt and the terror just melted away with relief, and then I became very angry. Those men had made me feel as though I was going to die. So I pulled away from the Afghan woman and I swung round at these wretched men. And I was wearing, I want you to picture the scene, my burqa had gone, but I was wearing a shalwar kameez, the trousers and an orange dress down to the knees. And I swung round at these men, very angry, and I said, I am not carrying any weapons. And to emphasize this, I picked up the hem of my dress and said, look! And then they all turned round and ran as though the devil was snapping at their heels.
L'Express Newspaper a envoyé une équipe de négociateurs pour s'entretenir directement avec des responsables talibans à l'ambassade afghane à Islamabad, au Pakistan, et il est vite devenu clair que le régime ne voulait ni argent ni aide, mais la preuve que Ridley était une journaliste de bonne foi.
At night, they would bring me food. They would lay out a cloth on the floor, beautiful carpeted floor, by the way, and they would put down some bread, some stew, and some rice, and they would bring in a jug of water and a bowl, and they would wash my hands, and they would tell me in broken English, you are our sister, you are our guest, we want you to be happy. And I thought, what sort of evil, brutal regime is this? Don't they understand the job description? And I'm thinking, you know, this is just a trick. They're trying to soften me up. And then the really bad guys will come in with the electrodes. In fact, isn't it strange? Everything that I thought would have happened to me under this so-called savage, primitive regime happened to prisoners in Abu Ghraib, in Guantanamo Bay, and other US holding facilities, which always prompts me to say, thank God I was captured by the most evil, brutal regime in the world and not by the Americans. By the third day, they called the doctor. Not that I was feeling unwell at all, but they called the doctor, and he came, a little man who trained in Germany, and he looked in my eyes, my ear, took my pulse, looked in my mouth, and I thought, they do this, don't they, on death row in Texas, just before they're going to execute somebody. They like to make sure that they're fit and healthy. And then he took my blood pressure, and something bothered him, because he then took it again. And I said, yes, I know I have high blood pressure. And he said, no, you don't. Your blood pressure is normal. I said, don't be so ridiculous. It can't be normal. You know, I'm about to be killed by the Taliban. How on earth is my blood pressure normal? And he said, look, and he did it again. And it was normal. I said, there you are, 3 days with the Taliban and you've cured my blood pressure. Thank you very much.
Elle n'a pas passé beaucoup de temps, en fait, prisonnière, mais ça a eu un impact énorme, ces hommes qui avaient du respect et comment ils agissaient avec elle.
Religion. And there in front of me was a religious cleric, a Malana. And everything in Afghanistan is dirty, ripped and torn and dusty. He was wearing an immaculate ivory gown, one which went right down to the ground. The Taliban's clothes were above their ankles. This guy's clothes were right down to the ground. You couldn't see his feet. And he had a great big ivory turban. A very modest beard by Afghan standards. Very light brown, modest beard. And light brown eyes. And he had beads which he moved, like rosary beads, which he moved 2 at a time. And there was something else about him that I thought was weird. And when I mentioned it to my first Muslim crowd, a few of them went, Alhamdulillah. When I told them, I said there was something really weird about this guy. He had a shine on his face. It was like a light on the inside coming out. I've never seen anything like it. And he said, what is your religion? And I thought, oh, here we go. I said, I'm a Christian. He said, yes, but what sort of Christian? Are you a Roman Catholic? Are you a Protestant? I said, I'm a Protestant from the Church of England. And he's smiling and moving his beads. And he said, and what do you think of Islam? Oh, I said, it's fantastic. It's absolutely wonderful. Of course, I knew nothing about Islam, very little, and the little that I knew was totally wrong as it turned out. And I went off in praise for 2 minutes of this faith that I knew so little about. And he smiled and he moved his beads. And then when I finally stopped running out of adjectives, he said, Islam is a beautiful religion. I couldn't agree more. And then again, I ran off in praise of Islam. And he smiled as he listened, and Hamid translated. And I said, do you know, the people around here are so passionate about their faith that they pray 5 times a day. I know because I've watched and counted it. And he looked. He must have thought, you stupid woman. But I didn't realize that Muslims are expected to pray 5 times a day. So he moved his beads. And then he said, so, you would like to convert? And I thought, he's led me into a blind alley here. If I say, yes, I'll convert, he'll accuse me of being fickle and insincere, and he'll say, take her away and have her stoned. If I say, no, I'm not interested, he'll say, how dare you insult Islam, take her away and have her stoned. So I'm trying to come up with the right answer. And then, in the end, I said, look, I can't make such a life-changing decision while I'm in prison, but if you let me go, I promise I will read the Quran and I will study Islam. And he smiled and he didn't say anything more, and he rose up and he glided out. Hamid went scuttling after him, and he returned a few minutes later and he said, you're going home on a red crest.
Suite à sa libération le 8 octobre, Ridley a été escortée à la frontière où elle a été remise aux autorités pakistanaises. Donc là, on peut se dire que tout va bien et que sa vie va reprendre normalement. Mais ce qui n'a pas été absolument pas le cas. Elle raconte d'ailleurs dans son livre « Entre les mains des talibans » que pendant sa captivité, elle a été traitée avec respect par les hommes des talibans et a été par la suite émerveillée par leur courtoisie. Tous les hommes avec lesquels elle est entrée en contact ont baissé les yeux, ce qui l'a laissée perplexe. Elle n'avait pas l'habitude de ce genre de traitement. Elle avait d'abord pensé qu'ils avaient déjà décidé de la faire exécuter et ne pouvait donc pas le regarder dans les yeux. Ce n'est que plus tard qu'elle a découvert qu'il lui montrait un signe de respect en fait. Pendant sa captivité, elle s'est engagée à lire le Coran et étudier l'islam s'il la laissait partir. Elle s'est dit comme ça, ça peut être quelque chose qu'ils vont apprécier et puis moi je vais pouvoir partir, m'enfuir. Tenant la promesse et se lançant dans ce qu'elle a décrit comme un exercice académique, elle s'est dite choquée de découvrir que le Coran indique clairement que les femmes sont égales en spiritualité, en valeur et en éducation. Ce que tout le monde oublie, c'est que l'islam est parfait. Les gens ne le sont pas.
Promise that I had given to the religious cleric. And I thought, well, against all the odds, they kept their word. While they hung on to the Christians, they let me go. And really, I should keep my promise now. And I started to read the Quran. Very soon, groups of Muslims found out, and somebody gave me a wonderful English translation by A. Yusuf Ali with an index in the back. So I thought, great, I'll get this over and done with very quickly. I'm going to cherry pick and I'm going to read all about the subjugation and oppression of women and what promotes people to slam planes into towers. So I started cherry picking and going through all the women's issues. And then I had other Islamic literature to support my reading of the Quran. I couldn't believe what I was reading. The Quran makes it perfectly clear, crystal clear, no two ways about it. Women are equal in spirituality, worth and education. Furthermore, the first convert to Islam was a woman. The first martyr to Islam was a woman. Women played major roles right from day one in Islam. They fought alongside the men. The Prophet, peace be upon him, picked out one particular woman and singled her out for praise during a battle, the Battle of Uhud. I then looked at property rights, inheritance rights, divorce rights. What's yours is yours, what's his is half of yours. Yeah, brilliant. Much of it could have been written by a Californian lawyer. In fact, this is from where they probably get their inspiration. All these tales in the tabloids about the superstars having prenuptial contracts and teams of lawyers drawing up and thrashing out these prenuptial contracts, they were available to Muslim women from day one. And so I began to see Islam in a totally different light. And I thought, yes, okay, this is great, but what are the people like? And so I went out into the Muslim communities, specifically to meet the sisters. And it didn't matter where I went in the world, whether it was Pakistan, or whether it was Saudi, or Canada, or America, or Australia, and now New Zealand. The Muslim women I have met, whether they have been formally educated or not, are resilient, strong, politicized, internationally aware, multi-skilled, multi-talented. A few years ago, I would have looked in this room and picked out everyone wearing a hijab, and I would have thought, oh, look at those poor, oppressed women. How did they manage to sneak out of the home to come here? Now I'm looking and I'm trying to work out who is the engineer, who is the doctor, who is the lawyer, who is the teacher, who is doing the PhD, who's doing the MA, who's raising kids at the same time, supporting their man, running a business, a charity, who is the backbone of the community. I see incredibly diverse women. And I remember a sister in Canada who said to me, Yvonne, my head might be covered, but my mind is not. And the most valuable lesson that I learned from the sisters that I met is never ever again will I judge a person's freedoms and liberties by the length of their skirt.
Mashallah, juste magnifique.
So I took a copy of the Shahada and I carried it round with me. And I would address meetings like this, and I would say, look, if you come across an accident and you hear someone shouting for 2 Muslim witnesses, please come running fast because it's me trying to get in before it's too late. Happily, there was no such accident. And on June the 30th, in 2003, at 11:30 in the morning, I took my Shahada and declared my belief that there is only one God and that Muhammad, peace be upon him, is his messenger.
Après sa conversion, elle a donné des conférences sur des questions relatives à l'Irak, à Israël, à l'Afghanistan, la Tchétchénie, au Cachemire, à l'Ouzbékistan. En fait, elle ne s'est pas juste contentée de se convertir et d'arrêter là. Elle l'a mis complètement, et je suis sûre que ça vous fait rappeler une histoire d'autres convertis dont je vous ai parlé sur cette chaîne. Elle s'est pas contentée de se convertir. En fait, sa conversion, elle l'a utilisée pour justement la cause des femmes et la cause des pays musulmans. Elle a voulu se faire porte-parole et elle s'est vraiment engagée par la suite toute sa carrière dans la cause de l'islam. J'espère que cette vidéo vous a plu, cette histoire vous a touché tout comme moi. Je vous dis à très vite pour une nouvelle vidéo. N'hésitez pas, partagez, vous connaissez, likez, commentez avec un grand plaisir.